developing a sense of appreciation for your breathing, for your breath, for being alive today. So often we move so quickly, never pausing and stopping to say, wait, I woke up this morning. I have breath in my lungs. Everything's going to be all right, regardless of what's happening, regardless of the circumstances that I am balancing and dealing with. I have an assurance by one, immersing myself in gratitude.
Yes.
That no matter what comes my way, we're going to figure this thing out.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Revolutionary G Talks. For those that are just joining in, thank you so much for joining in. And for those that are returning, welcome back. My name is Giselle Ureña, and today I am so pumped, so excited because I have such a special person right here with me right now who I brought because of the amazing work that he is doing and also the amazing things that he can teach you because of his experience. So help me welcome Jonathan Allen, everybody. Jonathan.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I actually want to tell them how we met. Or why don't you tell them how we met?
Well, so first and foremost, there is not many people who see something that they want and go after it and are willing to kind of break out of their comfort zone to reach out to people who either they don't know or they may feel maybe in a different space in life or on their journeys. And so you reached out to me on LinkedIn after seeing several of my videos, sharing really is my own personal reflections about life and navigating it. And I'm so grateful that you reached out. And then we had an opportunity to do a podcast or / Zoom conversation. And so that was the beginning, huh?
That was the beginning. So that happened in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. Jonathan would have daily 10-second to 20-second LinkedIn videos where he have an encouraging word. And let me tell you, I would actually go on LinkedIn just to go watch those videos that he would post because it really was helping me. And I remembered DMing him. I don't know if that's something that you say for LinkedIn, but I direct message him privately. And I said, I would love to bring you into my Instagram audience just to go IG Live and talk about a topic that you think would be great for the people to listen to. And it was a topic on hope. And that video right now, if you go on my Instagram, has almost 1,000 views. And it's so meaningful to me because I reached out to him because of the impact he was having on me, and then I was able to bring him into my Instagram, and then he impacted 1,000 people more. So I'm so honored to have you here. I'm so grateful for you. But why don't you tell them a little bit about you, Jonathan?
When people ask me this question, I'm like, where do I start? But I'm originally from Texas. I'm a Texas native. I was born in Lufkin, Texas, which is a small town in East Texas. If you know anything about Texas, that is about an hour and a half from Houston, about 3 hours from Dallas. And when I was in elementary school, around 4th grade, my parents separated, and so my brother and my mother and me, we moved to Dallas. And that's where we were as my dad had moved to Louisiana, New Iberia, Louisiana. And so I was in Dallas for some years until I got to high school. I moved then to Louisiana to be my dad. And so I grew up in New Iberia, Louisiana through high school, went to Grambling State University for undergrad, where I studied management and marketing, and went to Southern Methodist University for my Master's of Theological Studies, where I was very intent on learning about political theologies and breaking down systems of oppressions and how religion in particular has played a role in many of these institutions that have marginalized so many people for such a very long time. But the reason why that's important is because I also grew up as a childhood preacher. I started preaching at the age of 11 years old.
Wow.
And so throughout all of my life and upbringing, I was the person who was thinking about faith and how it influences the way people navigate life. And so that is one of the reasons why I went to theology school at that time, to try and learn a little bit more about my own purpose for being in the world, because I was at that time also really trying to reconcile who I was in terms of my sexual identity. And growing up in the South as a preacher and having so much responsibility and obligation to my community and to many people who depended on me. They depended on my perspective on things and took it at its value. And so that was a really serious
that sounds serious
thing to navigate as a young person. For sure. And so theology school really helped me to begin thinking about one, who is God and what is religion and who am I in the context of all of that. And so that's what I've been spending a lot of time doing in the last decade at least. And so after theology school, went to Boston University School of Law to get my Juris Doctorate. And so I got a chance to dive a little bit deeper into systems and how power is orchestrated and allocated in the world, and certainly in the context of the United States even more. And so that is who I am. I'm also the co-founder and director of development for Leadership Brainery, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is working to expand access to master's and doctoral degree programs for people who are coming from backgrounds in which they have been historically and systematically barred from the highest level of education and quality of education at that. And then obviously leadership roles in the workforce where people are earning more, having an influence on how decisions are being made and resources are being allocated. That is the work that we're doing. We have several core programs that we facilitate to close wealth gaps and opportunity gaps by empowering people with the resources and tools that they need to level up.
Wow. And yes. I mean, excuse me. I mean, you already can see why I brought Jonathan to the channel. This man is so powerful, and he is so knowledgeable in everything that he has put his hands in. But the reason why I brought him is because he has been so successful in everything that he has accomplished, but he wants to unpack how personal development is so essential for your personal life and your business life and your entrepreneurial or professional life. So my first question to you is, how has personal development, your journey within personal development, impacted your success in your personal life as well as your professional life?
I tell people all the time that one thing that is really critical for us to hone in developing is a sense of self-awareness, social awareness, and spiritual awareness. And that the balance of the three really helps to enable us to navigate the uncertainties of life. Life can have us on I think it's Vivian Green, on an emotional roller coaster. Trying to really balance the ups and downs of it, and the things that you can't always predict that are coming your way seems to sometimes knock us off our feet. And so having the balance of really honing an awareness of who you are internally, yourself, within the context of society, and within the context of spirituality. And spirituality not always and only meaning religion, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhist. It's not just within the context of religion. It's also within the context of who we are in relation to each other, who we are in relation to nature, and to all of the things that have been created. I tell people all the time that if you want to get to know more about God, then you have to spend more time with what God has made.
Yes.
Right? Not necessarily just reading scriptures and the Torah or the Quran. It is also sitting still, developing a sense of appreciation for your breathing, for your breath, for being alive today. So often we move so quickly, never pausing and stopping to say, wait, I woke up this morning. I have breath in my lungs. Everything's going to be all right, regardless of what's happening, regardless of the circumstances that I am balancing and dealing with. I have an assurance by immersing myself in gratitude.
Yes.
That no matter what comes my way, we're going to figure this thing out.
That's right.
We're going to figure this thing out. And that helps me because that's what's needed to really deal with much of what's on our plates from a business standpoint, right? From a personal standpoint, is building up that agility.
Yes.
To be agile, to be flexible, to be responsive to things as they come, and in a way that allows us to constantly ask ourselves, check my temperature. Let me make sure that I am okay. Let me make sure I'm getting what I need. Am I happy?
Yes.
Am I centering and prioritizing the things that really matter in this moment? And what's also central is, what is my intent?
Yes.
Around everything that I'm doing, what is my intention? And allowing that to guide us in every decision that we make, because everything that happens in our lives has to measure up against our choices.
Yeah. Something you mentioned in your introduction was that you had a very you had to grow up faster than it was intended. As a child, you was preaching and taking such a leadership role. And people may see you this positive, this vibrant person, but I'm sure you've had your down moments. So why don't you tell us a little bit about a moment in your life where you felt so low and you was in a very dark place, but how did you get out of that?
Yeah.
So that people can have,
I think one of the most memorable seasons, and I say season instead of moment, only to really contextualize the duration, that it was a period and not just a day or a second or a minute, but a process that I was experiencing in a very deep way. And that was me coming to a place of reconciling my identity around me being attracted to men, me being in love with a man, Derek, and how was I to navigate that? And it's something that I'd always been dealing with since I was a kid, in terms of having attraction, but telling myself that wasn't an okay attraction, and so I had to somehow suppress that and change who I was and how I was feeling and thinking about things. And so that was always a challenge since I was a kid, just really navigating that. And certainly being a preacher really made it even more challenging, because then I hated myself and lacked a sense of value and worth and appreciation for myself. And that's something that we should never do. And unfortunately, there are so many what I consider social constructs in life that is really making it so that people don't see themselves as worthy of dignity and respect. And that was the case for me. And I was also always afraid of people considering me a hypocrite, because I was a preacher and I was really amplifying the Bible and advocating for it. And there were inconsistencies in the way that people talked about sexual orientation and identity and expression, and not only from a homosexual versus heterosexual perspective, but also from a gender perspective, male and female, and any other way that one might identify themselves. Even those roles and dynamics were real skewed and oppressive quite often, and confusing for many people, because they're like, hey, I see, some contradictory, not only text, but proclamation of the text in terms of how it's delivered by who are deemed to be the spokespersons for religion, like our pastors and ministers and so forth. And so that was a very complicated aspect of my journeying as a young person. But then to internalize much of this and hide and retreat and not feel like I could be honest about who I was, not feeling as if I had anyone that I could express those things through quite often. And so really just silently and on what we call the DL, the down low, just kind of living life in that way and trying to process it. And I finally came to a point around 24 years old, 24, 25, where I was already in my relationship with Derek. We had been together for a few years. We met in college at Grambling State, and he literally was someone that from our very meeting, I felt in my soul, literally just felt in my soul. I absolutely have been already journeying with you before I've ever even met you in person. That was what I felt. And so that was the beginning of me really having to reconcile who I was, not only for myself, but with kind of a more fulfilled aspect of myself connected with someone else. And so that was in around 25 and 24, 25, that time where I really began to say, wait, what do I want?
Biggest question. Because
my not coming out, so to speak, was because of what people were feeling, what they would say, how they would react, and what they wanted from me. That's parents, that's siblings, that's aunties and uncles, that's people in the church, that's elders, that's grandparents, that's all of these people who for even many years have been thousands of people who have been following me around the country and in the world, who had interacted with me in some form, whether that was from my preaching platform to me being a leader in my community, to me being a leader within the educational space. I was traveling the country doing geopolitical work. I was advocating at the legislative and policy making level, and all of these things I was contemplating.
Wow. That must have been a lot of pressure.
What will happen? Will they leave me? Will they stop supporting me?
Wow.
And I finally just got to a place where I said, I cannot live my life worrying about whether or not other people will respect, love, and accept me in all of my totality, in my fullness. If they don't appreciate and love me for who I am, then they never loved me. And if they never loved me, then it is insane for me to keep living in darkness or bondage, or struggling with depression, or second guessing my worth and my value for people who never loved me in the first place. Or they only loved an idea of me, a version of me. But if that's not me fully, then is it worth me fighting for? Is it worth me continuing to mask myself? And so I just kind of finally had to take a bet on myself and really say, wait, what matters to you? And here I was at that age, really blessed with someone who I was beginning to journey with. We really clicked. We had our challenges. And as what comes with every relationship, but there was something undeniably special that I wasn't willing to give up. And so that was a part of that moment for me of choosing to value myself and thereby truly putting myself in a better position to give and pour out into the world what I've been put on this earth to do from a level of greater authenticity, a level of greater unbridledness and freedom and liberation and empoweredness, and something that I'm a decision I'm grateful that I made back then, which was to just not hide myself.
And it all starts with a choice.
It all
just
starts
that
with a choice.
moment when you're like, I'm over it.
Exactly.
I'm done with this. I wasn't put on this earth by accident.
Exactly.
I'm supposed to live the life that I've always imagined. I'm not here to just be what everybody else wants me to be. And I feel you when you say you were so afraid of people thinking you were a hypocrite, because I've also dealt with the same thing. People see that I go on YouTube or on Instagram and I talk about personal development and I talk about all this motivation and encouragement, and then when people get to see me in a vulnerable stage, they're like, oh, she's a hypocrite, she's not acting on what she preaches. But that's wrong, because the reason I'm here right now is to show you that I am as imperfect as you are, and I have my down moments, my moments of where I've fallen in the darkness, where I need to get back up. I'm not going to be perfect. Just because I'm here telling you this is what you can do to get out of it, that doesn't mean that I don't be in that position. Because I be in that position, that's why I can empathize with you and tell you that these are the things that you can do so that you can get out of that stage. And it all comes with that decision, that mindset that he's talking, that he's referring to. He made that choice. He switched that flip on his mind, and he said, no more. It's over. It's done. And we're in a stage right now, going through this pandemic. I feel like the world is so dead. Yes, the world needed a pause. I don't disagree with that. We needed to take a moment. My mom had to even stop working. That woman wouldn't stop working, and she was forced to stop work and be inside 4 doors and look at herself in the face. And now she's so vibrant, and she went through some development process. But the reason I'm making the point is because still the world feels so dry right now. I feel like Jonathan mentioned in the beginning, we're spiritual beings. That when we talk about spirituality, it's not just about a religion. It's mostly about who we are. We are flesh and spirit. So I feel like our spirit has been dimmed after being stuck in 4 walls for 2 straight years. So I want Jonathan's experience to be a reminder for all of you. It's a choice. But Jonathan, after you made that choice, I'm sure you were even more challenged.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, challenged on all kinds of levels. I mean, at that time was also when I had just moved to Boston for law school. And so now it's navigating a different culture, a different area, a different season now of my life, and having to now be even more committed to that relationship that I was recommitting to, and I think sometimes people really focus on the glitz and the glam of life and kind of the outcomes of some of the things that you put a lot of work into, but it takes work. Really building ourselves and having a more fulfilled life, it requires work. It's not easy, but the rewards is what we desire to experience, and that is more peace, more joyful living, and not being so stressed. Tell people all the time that either you're too blessed to be stressed, or stressing is out of style. I tell people that all the time. That's stressing is out of style. Because so often what is keeping us stressed is the lack of awareness to pause and to put things back into perspective. Often that's really what it is. If you start getting bogged up and real stressed out and overwhelmed, it is likely because you have not paused and checked yourself and really tried to put things back into perspective. No matter how bad things may seem, with a great self-check, with a moment where you say, wait, hold on. Let me be grateful for my breathing. The fact that I am alive. The fact that there's air and breath, oxygen in my lungs. Quite often when we do that and we appreciate it, not do it for the sake of not being stressed, but doing it because you have a really deep appreciation for the fact that you're alive.
Exactly.
Right? Because you really do appreciate your breath. That level of sincerity in creating a moment and space to reflect and appreciate the very essence of our being is what helps put things back into perspective. That there's life here. And as long as there's life here, as long as I am living and breathing, then I have capacity to orchestrate and to manifest what it is that I desire in my life. And I know sometimes the circumstances may seem just downright awful, impossible, insurmountable. And literally those are the moments that test us to the limit, to really see, are you going to give up in this moment? Because when you give up, you no longer have the option to see what the end would be. You no longer have the option to see what could be manifest from this circumstance. And so it's in those moments that we must hang in there. It's in those moments that we must not give up. It's in those moments that we must dig deep and remind ourselves that I have inside of me everything that I need to make it. Everything that I need to get through this. I have the brilliance, I have the ingenuity, I have the security, the courage, the confidence. It's in me. And if I just keep going forward, keep doing my best, not always trying to be perfect, because perfection is what gets us caught up often. Not trying to be perfect, but trying to be persistent, perseverant, hanging in there. Because when we do that, the race isn't given to the swift, nor the strong. Look at me quoting scripture. But those that endure to the end. I do believe that. And that as long as we keep going, as long as we keep moving forward, things may not manifest the way that we desire them to. And that's why Deepak Chopra in the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success tell us that we have to relinquish that need to be attached to things. We got to detach ourselves from the things that we want really, really bad. Hold a sense of confidence and assurance that those things will come to pass. And move forward every single day to be our best selves, walking in gratitude and a sense of awareness of what we've come on this earth to do. Wow.
I mean, I hope you got to soak in absolutely everything, or at least one thing that Jonathan had to share with us today. I have to say thank you to Jonathan and tell you see you later. But please, if you ever want to keep up with Jonathan, follow him on his Instagram and LinkedIn, which is right here on the...
Jonathan for all.
Yeah, it's Jonathan for all. It's right here on the screen. Go on Instagram and keep up with him. But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for always joining in and tuning in. But please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your loved ones so that we can continue growing this family. Jonathan, thank you so much.
I love you dearly.
Thank you so much for coming.
Keep going. You're great, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Much love, everybody.